Let's rewind like a VHS. Turn back the time, feel the beating of our chest. Make sure that we never forget. Let's rewind like a VHS. 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 Let's rewind like a VHS. 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 Let's rewind like a VHS. Let's concede that we wanna believe that the past was only a dream, just a place that we never could leave. Follow us on the way to retrieve. VHS, VHS. Let's rewind like a VHS. VHS, VHS. Let's rewind like a VHS. Feel the beating of our chest. Make sure that we never forget. Let's rewind like a VHS. 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 Let's rewind like a VHS. VHS.
What up, everybody? DJ Anubis here with you, my great co-host and good friend Kevin Lambert from the Entertainment Headquarters, where we once a month get together and do the Cinematic Synergy, a show in which we both alternate picks, find something we've maybe seen once or not seen at all, and then go and review it. This case, it was my pick, Cemetery Man from 1994. And to my knowledge, you had not seen this before, right?
Nope.
So I'll be interested in hearing your thoughts on this unique piece of cinema. Let's first give a breakdown to the backstory to it. Also, they're directed by Michele Savi. Cast consists of mainly the main cast: Rupert Everett and Anna Fauci, something like that.
Anna
Plot,
Fauci. Anna Fauci.
yeah, Fauci, yeah, or something like that. Yeah, I saw that she recently did a movie in 2019 with Dolph Lundgren called The Tracker, so I might have to check that out. Plot of this is the cemetery man must kill the dead a second time when they become zombies. He is the guardian of the cemetery of Buffalora, a little town in the north of Italy, in which we don't know why corpses rise from tombs and Dellamorte has to destroy them. Dellamorte being Rupert Everett's character.
Yeah.
Dellamorte seems not to ask himself why this happens. He shoots and loves, but at the end he must leave Buffalora. Basically, we have four main characters, and I know there's a lot more in here, but the main ones, of course, is Francesco Dellamorte, played by Everett. She is by Fauci. They never really give her a name. Francois Haji Lazari plays Nagi. And then, of course, probably as I went back, because it's been a while since I've seen this, so when I went back and watched it, Fabina Formica plays Valentina Scanarati, who I thought really kind of just steals the movie in a lot of ways. Very good character. So yeah, basically, you know, Dellamorte, he's a what they call an engineer. He handles the cemetery here in Buffalora, and you know, it gets right into it. Like he's just kind of sitting in his room in his little cabin out there in the cemetery, and all of a sudden he gets a knock at the door and there's like this dead dude there and he just shoots him in the head, and that's kind of how it just kind of starts kicking off. Your first thoughts checking this out?
my first thought, it's quite a unique flick. Like it's quite different to what I've seen before, and it's a unique choice by yourself. What I liked about it is basically there's no real backstory of why they come back to life, and I like the name of them as well. Like obviously in The Walking Dead, the zombies are known as the Walkers, but I like the fact that they called them the Returners in this.
Yeah, the Returners,
Which I thought was really quite interesting. And like you say, it's basically him on his own. He's quite reclusive, stuck doing this job in this cemetery. And when like you're shown in the clips there, these people are just coming back to life and he has to take them out. And it's like everyday life, and nobody seems to be fazed by that. People in this small town, in this cemetery, they are coming back to life and I think it's after 7 days of death. After they've been dead for 7 days, they then potentially can come back to life. I don't think everyone comes back to life, but it seems to be select certain individuals that do. In his whole story arc, basically, he's very lonely because he's trapped in this town, and he's basically got nobody, no family, no not. You see him having a conversation with a friend on the phone, and he keeps running into these different women who all appear by the same actress, and all this kind of weird shit starts to take place throughout the course. And he's psychic, he cannot speak. He can only say one word, which
Nagi,
I thought, Nagi, he can only say nah, and he becomes infatuated with the Mia's daughter, and things go down with that. So yeah, quite a unique film, with quite contained, with no real depth of like plot. It's all kind of like a mystery that's not too.
It kind of goes in a lot of different ways. Like it's kind of jumping around, but cinematography is pretty cool still. So yeah, you brought up Fauci's character. So an older gentleman passes away, and he has a young bride played by Fauci, and this is where Francesco kind of like gets infatuated with her right away. Like he's automatically already saying some stupid shit like, "Oh, he just passed away. Oh, good." And he's not very socially aware of what he says. But the girl initially kind of pushes off his advances, but then for whatever fucking reason, when he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll show you the ossuary," and that gets her turned on. It's like a little crypt where there's some skeletons and stuff, and then they start getting hot and bothered, and it's really a weird twist of how it just starts going in that direction. But even more so as they get closer, she wants to have sex with him like right by the husband's grave, and he hasn't told her that the dead can come back to life. So it's kind of like they're getting it on. And let me tell you, Fauci's gorgeous, but obviously the husband wakes up in the grave and breaks out, bites her. And this is kind of like where initially we don't know if being bitten will turn you into a zombie or not. Like it doesn't really work the same way. I think usually it's probably more like if it bites your artery, you just bleed to death or whatever. Because I know at some point the mayor gets killed, but she gets bit and dies. And so Francesco is really bummed out, and he gets the doctor, and doctor says, "Oh yeah, well, the bite didn't kill her, she just died of fear." And he's like, "Oh." So then sometime later she starts to rise. Like he has her in the crypt, she's got like this little veil over her, and she starts to come up. He thinks she's dead, shoots her in the head, and she's down again. But he doesn't really know that's from the dead or not.
Yeah, so like he shoots her in the head thinking she's like a returner. But she's like playing like some sexy game with him, really, because she's like wants to carry on where they left off, basically. And he was absolutely in love, infatuated with her because she is a gorgeous woman. And obviously, there is some time later when you find out that actually she mustn't have died when she was bitten. She must have just passed out with the shock of it all.
Right.
And then obviously there's some time passes later where she actually does come back from the dead, and she is a real and like returner. But at that point, he's absolutely devastated because he realized the first time when he shot her, she wasn't actually dead. But now she is dead. He's absolutely devastated because he could have had a second chance with her, and he kind of blew it.
Yeah, so now he's like, is my life as a caretaker bleeding over into the real world with living people? Like he's, you know, he has a lot of guilt because now he's like killed. Like even when so we come to a point where Nagi and him go to town where they get kind of bullied and harassed by these groups of 20 somethings, and Valentina, who is the mayor's daughter, is there, and you know, Nagi takes a liking to her, and of course has a very uncomfortable encounter where he throws up on her because he's so nervous. But this 20 somethings, you know, they all are bikers and stuff, and of course they have a big accident. Like it's almost like it's meant to happen, you know, just getting crazy on the bikes. They get hit by a bus, and the bus rolls down the hill, like just tons of people are dying. And so now, like Francesco and Nagi know they have their work cut out for them because they just know that half of them are going to come back. But this is where Valentina, like again, she's dead. She's got this cool coffin where she's in a white dress, and it's a glass case. And Nagi knows everything that happens. He knows that she will come back. So in his obsession with her, digs up the grave, and of course her eyes open. Is a pretty eerie portion there. But then it gets funny because she talks to him in like a cutesy girl voice, and so he actually takes her head off. Like I don't think that was meant to happen, but he took her head off. And so I had forgotten that, you know, when he's going back playing the violin to try to woo her or seduce her or whatever he's trying to do with her back to his own quarters, her head's like just sliding along the ground, following him, talking while they're going, and they're just having fun. Like then he puts her in this TV that got busted or shot up by Francesco at one point, and so he's having these private conversations without Francesco knowing. So what did you think about all that playing out?
I got Evil Dead vibes, like some of the cinematography, like some of the scenery in this you could have taken from Evil Dead, like with the deadites, especially like, you know, when he's looking at the glass coffin and she opens her eyes, he actually smashes the glass coffin with like I can't remember what it was, like a large piece of wood or something, or a shovel, smashes through. He actually cuts her head off by me. I don't know if he was intentionally meant to do it, but when he smashes the coffin, I guess that's maybe try and free her, he actually chops her head off.
Yeah, that makes sense because, you know, he's sort of special needs, so he probably doesn't really think about it in a sexual way. It's just companionship, you know, something that he knows that Francesco had with the other girl.
Yeah.
But back to my original point about like the main biker dude, he had this chick that was so obsessed with him, but he was seeing somebody else or whatever. And he comes back out of the grave in his motorcycle, which was buried with him, which is ridiculous, but it was funny as hell. She jumps on, and then, you know, Francesco has to chase him down because you got to kill this guy. You can't let him get out of the cemetery. She's on the bike with him, catches up with them, and like she's like, he's just eating me. And of course, you don't know what the fuck he's doing down there, but obviously he's cannibalizing her in some way, but she's okay with it. But again, like just like with you know, he shoots the guy in the head, but she's behind him, so she kills another living person. He kills another living person because he didn't mean to, but she happened to be behind the dead guy already. So again, that more guilt about like where it's crossing over, and then he gets visited by like the Reaper Grim Reaper, who's like, yeah, just kill Livy, man. Just go at it, you know.
Like I think you get to the point, like, because he's devastated because he lost somebody that he potentially could have built something with. He kind of succumbs to his madness and his paranoia and his deep thoughts, and like, I'm sure death, or they get, like, somebody says to him, well, they keep returning from the dead, so why don't you just kill the living?
Right.
And just put them out the misery before they die so they can't return. And so he has all this going on, and so he kind of goes on a bit of a killing spree and kind of becomes a bit of a nut job. And then you've got Oggy.
I like that point, because I think I'm going to come back to that a little bit. Because we had, as you stated before, like, the actress who plays we see two other versions of her in the movie. So he has another version where I forget what the occupation she was, but she shows up. I think she's like a secretary to this old man. And so he sees her, and then they start striking a conversation again. And she's like, I think I've known you before. And she, obviously a dead ringer for the other girl. And so again, he wants to make out with her and all this, but she's like, I'm afraid of a guy's manhood. So I forget what he does. He goes and has his dick numbed up or something, so he can't get an erection or something.
She's got a phobia of, like, intimacy and being basically penetrated.
Right.
And prior to that, obviously, Oggy, who's got the head, her father, who was the mayor at the time, goes looking for her because you can hear her voice. And then when he sees what's going on, she actually flies out of this television that the head's in, kills her own father. He then came back to life as a returner who he had to be killed. And then there's this new Mia that takes over after he's gone. So all this is happening within like 10 minutes of this thing going on.
Right.
And then obviously what happens is, if you remember at the beginning of the film, he was told that there was teenagers going around saying he was impotent. So I'm starting to think, is this part, what's going on with this part? Is it all in his head, and is this just part of his paranoia that she won't get with him? And so then he goes through extreme lives and sees this doctor who injects himself down below them, nummies basically bits, so that he can be there for her because he's obsessed with the person who he had killed, and maybe this is just another thing going on in his head. And all at the meantime, she disappears, but when she turns back up, she's now actually been raped by the new mayor of the town, I believe. And she's actually enjoyed it. She's actually enjoyed the experience, and now she wants to be with him. And he's now numb as hell downstairs, and he's done everything for no reason at all. So the plot just gets more twisted and more bizarre. But it also makes me think, it's ever since he shot her and killed an innocent, like a woman, like the woman he potentially have some sort of relationship with, living in this isolated place. Maybe he's had this psychological break, and all of this stuff, this bizarre stuff, on top of all that, everything else is all just like him in his head.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, and every time you think that you've figured out one part of it, they throw you this other wrench. And so obviously she says she's cured because she got raped and she now enjoys it, but now he can't really give anything to her in that way. But she's like, we can be friends. The worst thing that a guy wants to hear when he's in love with somebody. But as you said before, he kind of starts going on this bit of a killing spree. Some of it intentional, some not. So we run into girl number 3, which looks exactly like the girl before. And it's just a couple of girls, college girls, looking for a way home or something like that. So he's like, yeah, get in. First he didn't want to, but when he saw the other girl that looks like his girlfriend, of course he obliged. So they end up having sex, and apparently it was good enough. So he's fixed whatever problem he had. Until he finds out that she's a hooker and wants money. Like, the other girl comes collecting, and he's like, what? So now he's just like pissed. He's like, this is ridiculous. So she wants him to come back to bed. he puts like a space heater in the blankets with her and it catches fire, burning up everybody in the building. But the local detective comes by and he's like, immediately Francesco, all right, yeah, okay, you can arrest me. He's like, no, we already have the person responsible.
Yeah,
Which is
and
his buddy.
yeah, his buddy who was on the phone suddenly rocks up. But
Yeah.
may I just say he's the worst detective I've ever seen in my life. He is absolutely terrible as a detective.
Oh, the best is like when he's talking to his friend Franco, who doesn't remember him or doesn't even recognize him. The doctor and nurses keep coming in. He just starts shooting them. And as he's leaving down the steps, the detective's like, there's a madman loose in the hospital. I hope you got a gun with you. Protect yourself. And he's like, it was me. And no one's listening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's clearly lost it at this point. So now he's basically given up on everything. He wants to get out of the town. He's done being an engineer, which he doesn't like that term anyway. But he says to Nagi, get your shit. We're leaving town. We're getting out of here. He always looked after Nagi for whatever reason, but they get in a little Volkswagen.
I think why he's always looked after him is for the fact that because he's so isolated in this town, he's the only kind of connection or friend he's ever had. So he's kind of clinging on to him because it's like the only, like you said, companion and real friendship he's ever had. Despite him having special needs and learning difficulties, he still kind of wants him and respects him and has him in his life for that reason.
And it should be noted that when Valentina attacks her dad, that's when Francesco actually shoots the head of Valentina and kills her finally, which bums out Nagi. But I guess they just figured at that point that, she went, vile and you couldn't control her anyway because of that. The dead has a need for flesh. That seems to be a zombie thing. So but yeah, so they're getting ready to break out of town and they get in a little VW bug, head down the road, and you think, okay, they're gonna get out of this town, but then it's almost like a Evil Dead thing at the bridge. You come to the end, it's like the concrete just breaks off. Don't see anything. It's just like a big valley of nothing. Like it's almost as if they can't leave or aren't allowed to leave. And it brings what is probably the weirdest part of the movie to a conclusion, which, we start seeing snowfall and it's like, what the fuck is this? And then, of course, the final scene is them as figures in like a snow globe.
Mm-hmm.
What is your interpretation of that? What do you take out of that?
I don't know. This is the thing. It was such a bizarre, and it's like maybe the snow globe represents somebody's mind, and the deeper thoughts within the mind, and the things that we constantly think of in the mind, and how we're kind of trap ourselves with our own thoughts, and all of these could have been his own thoughts trapped in this snow globe, and he just cannot get out of it. And before that, though, there was also the scene where he did crash the car and Noggy got hit and you thought Noggy had died. And then all of a sudden, Noggy, which I thought was really a quite important part because Noggy had banged his head, he collapsed, he had some sort of seizure or something, and you thought he had died. Suddenly he wakes up and he looks up and he can actually now talk normal. And he now, what's the character's name? Francesco. He actually talks like Noggy now. He can't speak. No, that's all he can see. He says, "Can you take me home now?" Noggy says, "Can you take me home now?" And Francesco goes, "Nah," like he did previously. So it also makes me think the representation of the snow globe is it actually Noggy's mind, and everything that's happening is from his perspective, and he's looking at Francesco's, and he's like on the outside of it all, and he's looking out, and that's what he's seeing. You could look at the interpretation of this anyway, because it was such a weird plot.
Yeah,
But
I think for me, like, the more I think about it, it comes across more as, for me, that Francesco is like in purgatory of sorts, like, because it's almost like a dreamlike state where if you ever had a dream and it was going one way, and then just something like, let's just say, and Kevin Lambert meets a hot Chris Hemsworth, and you guys are hitting it off.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, fucking the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland pops up in your dream, and you're like, "What the fuck is he doing here?" It's almost like that, like just the weirdest shit that just
yeah.
turns around and happens. And so, the Globe to me it's almost like he's locked in this purgatory of, like, with the girl, like it's a never-ending cycle that he's always going to be tormented by some girl in some way. It's almost. Did you ever see Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley?
Yes, I have seen that. Where that wasn't she the devil in that?
Yeah, so she kept doing this thing where he would make a wish and give him what he wanted, but it was always a twist to it. It's like Wishmaster. It's like, you're not gonna get exactly what you want. There's always a catch. And so this is what this felt like. It's like he kept running into the same girl thinking, "Oh, I got my girl back." And then it's some weird shit happens, like either she's a hooker or she's been raped and enjoys that guy now. Like, there's always something to fuck his dream up. And so it's like a purgatory days, just continue to rewind to do something different. And so that's how I took it. I don't really know if that was the intention of Salvi when they did the movie, but that's kind of how I've come to the conclusion of how this movie plays out.
Yeah, it was also. I'm sure this is based off a book.
Yes.
Well, so I don't know what the book's like, or if it totally followed the story of the book, or if it went totally in a different direction. But it's one of those movies where you can interpret it in any way you want. Like, there's different ways you can look at it. And for me, like I said, I could see elements of Evil Dead in this, like what you said with the road. I also, because of the road thing, it also kind of reminded me of Silent Hill. Where, they're trying to get out the town in Silent Hill, and whenever trying to cross a bridge or something always damaged or broken and they couldn't escape. Some of the special effects elements were clearly inspired by the likes of Evil Dead, especially when I seen the head fly towards her dad and she's biting on the side of his neck. And some of the makeup skills reminded me of things like the original Salem's Lot, like with the the greys and the dark blues on the face to represent the dead. So yeah, for that alone, I did enjoy it. There were elements in this that surprised, and there was some elements in this I was like, what the fuck am I watching? I don't know what's gonna happen next, because it was so like a bizarre twisted story. And like you see, the ending is quite shocking with the snow globe. You think, oh, what does this represent? What is the whole film representing?
Yeah, it's just so bizarre. All right, well, what rating would you give this?
I would have to say, I'll be honest, I'm going to give it 6 out of 10, because I'll give it 6 out of 10 because it is a unique film with a unique plot, and the characters are bonkers and crazy. But I feel like it's stuff I've already seen before in other ways, shapes, and form. But I do like how it was executed, and it did keep us like trying to guess what was going to happen next. So for that, I think it does have some really good elements to it. But 6 out of 10, I think, is a fair rating.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you would have asked me 40 years ago when I first saw this, I would have given it a 10 out of 10. It was like one of my favorite movies at the time. Even after seeing Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2, I just thought that it was, Rupert Everett was really great in this. And I just loved the concept and everything. It didn't go the way you thought it would. Like, you kind of thought it'd follow a certain amount of numbers, and then it just changes up. But over time, I've seen like the humor doesn't quite hit as much as it used to. It's a bit dated. And, again, like at the time, I thought, whenever you would watch a movie as a kid or a teen, seeing the crazy movies that do weird things, you're kind of like, oh, that's so cool because it does that. But now it's kind of like you want some sort of coherent storyline. And this one doesn't, even though it's okay, it leaves it for interpretation. It's like it doesn't hit like some of the other movies we've seen in modern day where they kind of do the same thing, but they're more cleverly placed together. So I'd still give it an 8 out of 10. It's still a movie I still kind of enjoy, just probably more for nostalgic purposes, but not quite as good as I once to remember it to be.
Yeah, I understand like what you're saying. Like I could imagine if I had watched, say, this or even Evil Dead side to side, or this before Evil Dead, it does have that kind of old school dark comedy aspects to it, which I did respect and appreciate for the time. Like, as you know, we not long did the Evil Dead discussion, and even though we both appreciate the first film, I've always been more inclined for the second one, or the more horror, straightforward remake. But I appreciated it for what it tried to do at the time, and I can see that clearly in this, that they were trying to do something unique and different and add to like the dark horror comedy kind of genre. And I think they did achieve it in many ways. But like you say, maybe as times progressed, it doesn't work as well as it did when it first came out.
Yeah, I read somewhere they initially thought of trying to do a sequel to it, but I don't even know if that's still a thing. Now we're talking 40 years later, so I don't know how. I do know that the actress is still alive. I think Everett is too, but I just don't know how they will do it.
Yeah, Everett's still alive, and he has done a number of things. I don't think he's ever reached like he is a known name, but he's never reached the heights of some actors. He's more like a genre actor, I would say now.
Right.
And at the last I heard, because I did read a little bit about this, the creator or the writer of this, the last time he tried to get the sequel off the ground was 2011. He wrote a script for a sequel in 2011, and since then nothing else has came out. So I'm assuming it's dead in the water, because to do a sequel to this like 20-30 years later, would anyone be interested? Because like you say, I don't know if you would class Cemetery Man as a cult classic or just a genre dark comedy film that people might check out from time to time.
I think some people still consider it a cult classic, but again, it's probably more for nostalgic purposes. Like I don't think it holds up quite like some of the other stuff that they consider cult. But
you see, I could watch Evil Dead a few times. This I don't think I would revisit as much as Evil Dead.
Right.
For like I say, I hadn't seen this before, but I did appreciate it. But it didn't quite hit the mark that I thought it potentially could have. But I still enjoyed it for what it was.
It's always nice just to have an experience.
Definitely, yeah.
So what do you got coming up on the entertainment headquarters? What stuff you got coming brewing?
So I know we are going to be doing our Under Paris review pretty soon. The film that has blown Jaws out the water, what I've been told.
So I've been told.
So if you believe that, you believe that the sky is green. On top of that, though, I do have a few things coming. I know on the 28th of July. Oh, sorry, in June, yes, sorry, the 28th of June, this month, yes, the 28th of June, which is a Friday, we will be doing the Monsterverse live stream on the entertainment headquarters. It's a Monsterverse retrospective review, so we'll be looking at the Monsterverse from the humble beginnings way back in 2014 up to where we are at now. And I also have got planned the next Into the Darkness franchise horror review, which will be the Wishmaster film series. And we may have a few extra surprises along the way.
Ooh. As for me, today I'm going to try to get my top 5 Godzilla looks, according to me. I'm going to get that out today at some point. As promised, also a species spotlight. I'm going to do an Avik, the pink-toed tarantula, so I'm going to try to get that out as well. going forward, got to rewatch Exuma. I just started watching that last night, but I'm gonna have to watch it again. It's a bit of an interesting take on Korean horror, but also have my top 10 TV horror movies list to come out, and as well as my top 10 sexiest female vampires in cinematic history, which I'll be doing. So I got some stuff brewing. Just a matter of getting the time in there. But as always, or have you figured out what you're going to do next for Cinematic Synergy?
Not yet, no, not yet. I'm gonna try and find something that either we haven't seen or something that catches me eye that would be an interesting watch.
And I do know you're also working on a top 10 iconic deaths and movies, so I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah. Well, you can be a part of that one, 100%. If you've got your list ready.
I haven't started yet, but I'm excited to kind of go down and check it out.
And well, I do know we've got that. Oh, that's another thing. I do know we're next to retro classic movie show picks. The first one that'll come next month, which is my turn. The last one was the film Jewel from 1979, was it? Which was your which was your pick. That's available now on the Entertainment Headquarters. A great film, Steven Spielberg's first directorial debut. But the next two are going to be my pick. It's going to be The Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, and we'll be joined by two good friends of ours, Mr. Sci-Fi Century from the same channel, and Mr. Walter Ross. And then after that, the August one, which is your pick, is Warriors, and we're going to be joined by That Fat Samurai Guy. So that's coming. Yes, that one's coming on August the 2nd. The one in July, we haven't picked a date yet, but we'll keep you posted.
Awesome. All right, sir. Well, we'll see you soon for Under Paris. But thank you again for tuning in with me to talk about The Cemetery Man. And for the rest of you, please hit the like, subscribe button. Please go check out this man's channel. A lot of great content there, as usual. And we'll see you next time on a Cinematic Synergy, man.